I'm on TV. Welcome to a bit of company chat. Let's start the show.
Bit of company and a chat. A bit of company and a chat. Bit of company and a chat. What's better than that?
Hey Camerado, you're tuned in to a bit of company chat. And this is the one where we mix with folk who don't look like us. Please join us in welcoming to the screen today's host, Isaac.
Hello, Camerados, people, everybody, Earthlings. So welcome. This is our final, maybe not our final, hopefully not our final show, but today we have the great honour of meeting a wonderful guest and talking about some of the movements, experiences during COVID. So I want you to just look out for a bit of action and wonky words, and do send your suggestions in. We are on most major social media platforms. At the bottom of the screen, you'll see where you can find us. Please do send your wonky words in, your bit of action, because we'd really like to hear from you. Well, what is Camerados? It's a movement of people that are just wonderful human beings. So I would say that because they've really helped me out, particularly when I've been having a bit of a difficult time. From their public living rooms to their spoon rooms, and most recently the Friday night party, which was a blast, just what I needed. So Camerados and a Camerados, to me, is in between a friend and a stranger, somebody that's prepared to be alongside you, even when you're finding it really difficult. It's about no fixing, no agendas. It's okay to be, can't say the word, rubbish sometimes. And, it's about creating spaces of hope and connecting with people that don't necessarily look like us, don't necessarily have the same views, but are just really wanting to be alongside other people. Never really understood the power of just being alongside. Great power. Be alongside people, no agendas, no fixing, and ask somebody to do something for you. Really does help. Anyway, don't just take my word for it. Could we have the clip from the Camerados movement pit crew?
Good morning, Camerado.
Good morning, Camerado.
How you doing?
Good.
People have that ability inside themselves to sort their own lives out, and I think what Camerados does, it gives people that human space to do that, and to do that together where everybody helps each other.
We are Camerados.
So I don't know about you, but I sure have needed some Camerados to be alongside me. It's really challenging times right now, and COVID and all of that sort of stuff. And people have just given so much time and been alongside and created that hope and space. So then I really am delighted to be able to introduce our next guest. Can we go to the next section, please, pit crew? So hello, sir. How are you?
I'm very good.
Good.
How are you?
I'm very good, thank you. So thank you for coming and spending some time and being alongside me. No fixing, it's okay to be rubbish. Tony, we've met a few times and had some great conversations. So as Cilla Black would say, what's your name and where'd you come from?
Okay, so yeah, no surprise, my name is Tony, and I'm from East London. Of Jamaican heritage, and grew up in the UK.
Thank you, Tony. So we have spoken about COVID and how COVID has shone a light on some of the really not so nice bits of the world, racism, inequalities. And this particular series is focusing on racism and, inequalities, and we've had some really good conversations. Tony, what's your experience been like?
So my experience is, I suppose, like a lot of people I've spoken to, have been a bit of a roller coaster, especially at the beginning when didn't quite know what to expect, or getting very mixed messages, from the government. And then as things started to pan out and we realized that it was in for a longer period than first anticipated. I mean, gosh, March will be a year that we've been like this, and I just could not have foreseen that. But overall, through it all, I would say it's been quite a pleasant and quite a positive experience. I've had periods of when it's been quite low, but overall, big picture, yeah, it's been quite positive.
Cool. Tony, I know we've spoken about how COVID has really shone a light on some of the challenges certain communities might face, particularly around access and disproportionality. I just wondering what your views on that.
Okay, so I think many things. I think COVID has highlighted inequalities, like structural inequalities, that have always been there. And it's just really interesting that, when you think about priority lists, when you think about people taking the vaccine now and people not, there's a lot of conversation which I think is around the issue, but not about the issue. So, people from Black and Asian community has been told that we're not taking the COVID, or there's conspiracy theories. But what is known but isn't really being put at the fore is the fact that for a lot of people from Black and ethnic minority communities, they had to work, especially at the beginning. They were the bus drivers, they were the people on the front line, before, driving the trains, doing all the stuff and being put at risk, or at more risk. And that's not because of COVID, that's just a wider thing that happens in society. And I think, COVID has highlighted some of those structural inequalities. And I really like us to shift the narrative from conspiracy theorists to looking at issues around trust, looking at issues of a long legacy of not really getting clear messages or being brought or being thought of at the beginning of a lot of services.
And Tony, now I know you've worked with doing this thing called co-production, and your previous job was working, and we've spoken about the homeless communities. We've talked about sort of the structural challenges around that, and so I was just wondering if, what do you think people can really do to make a difference? Because I think we're all trying to make a difference.
Just before I go on, I just need to say how fabulous you look. I mean, you really, really do look fabulous. And there's a cockerel to just underline that, but also your backdrop and everything. I think, and I've done that to say that it's those little things, just paying genuine interest in people, acknowledging people, all those things we talk about, checking in on one another. It's so hard, especially if you live alone, or if you're isolated in a small bubble. And I think all of these things of being a camarado, of reaching out, showing genuine interest, is really, really important. And especially when I've had those moments of dips, that's what's helped me to come up. So by doing for others, I've done for myself.
Very, very powerful, and very much my experience as well, Tony. Now we are covering the topic of structural challenges, issues. I mean, it's just been really difficult for certain groups of people. There's been a lot of negative news around disproportionality. Now we started the vaccine rollout, and there's a lot of mistrust, if you ask me, What do you think that we can do to start repairing some of that mistrust?
I think doing things like this, talking about it, and instead of sort of shifting the narrative around things like us being apprehensive or not sure. Are you getting the same message I'm getting about Aunt Sally?
Not getting that message. But we will move on to Aunt Sally's. Finish what you were saying, Tony.
So what I was going to say is I don't mind picking it up after Aunt Sally, but yeah, I think we need to talk about it, put it front and center, because when it comes to issues of trust, some of the fundamentals of that is that it takes time to be built up. And when you've had decades, indeed centuries of inequalities and being second-class citizen and not being thought of, it doesn't just happen overnight.
Thank you, Tony. So on that note, I believe that we should go to Aunt Sally's clips. Could we go to Aunt Sally's, please?
Then we all go.
I've been feeling weird, I've been feeling like I've been crazy. I've been feeling weird, I've been feeling like I've gone crazy. I've been feeling weird, I've been feeling like I've gone crazy.
Yeah, really. I just love that whole, because my experience of the whole pandemic has been like David did. Just really difficult, isn't it? Like with all of the stuff about people just doing the best they can do with the tools that they've got. But thank you for commenting. And I think one of the things that we can do is really put ourselves out there and make those connections, and really just connect in that really human way. Can we go to the full clip of Aunt Sally, please, pit crew?
Aunt Sally's words of wisdom. So today we're going to be talking about inequalities in society and everything that means. And it should mean a lot to each and every one of us. When you hear something that you really disagree with and you think is absolutely terrible, then make sure you say it. Don't be silent, but say it in a really respectful way. So instead of saying, "You're wrong," say, "I've got a bit of a problem with what you've just said," and explain why you've got a problem. That way, the other person is more likely to listen. So don't point the finger, just say, "I've got a problem with what you're saying." It actually works. If you're organising an event, then make sure everybody has the same experience. Understand that people start off from a different place. It's really important to break down all those barriers so that everybody has the same experience. Oh my goodness, it says that Math Potts is going to fly to Mars and live there for the rest of his life. Oh no, what are we going to do? Just because something says it online or you hear it doesn't mean to say it's true. Fake news is set out to ruin the reputation of people or organisations, or to just make you generally worry. So if you see something that you think is unbelievable, it probably is. Check it out before you retweet or you believe it. It's common sense. Check it out. And here's a piece of news that isn't fake. Citibank are going to allow people to change their name to the one that they want without going through the bureaucracy of legals and red tape. It's about time that people are allowed to be who they want to be. So well done, Citibank. I think I'll be joining them, and I'm going to name myself Queen Sally, Words of Wisdom. Very fitting. My last words of wisdom for you all is about kindness. But what does kindness mean? I'm not talking about the power struggle, patronising type of kindness where you make yourself feel better. I'm talking about good kindness, and kindness where you think about who you're sitting somebody next to at a meeting to make them feel more comfortable. Or make sure that if you're hosting a meeting, the jargon stays at the front door, and that you make sure everybody understands everything that's being said. Those sorts of acts of kindness are really important. So, if you're going to be anything, be good kind. Aunt Sally's words of wisdom.
Everybody needs an Aunt Sally.
Or indeed, Queen Aunt Sally.
Queen Aunt Sally. You know, Tony, I was really struck because so many of my black and brown friends I've had to have the conversation about the vaccine with because of how it's been portrayed on particular platforms and within social media. And it really has affected, you know, we've talked about trust, but it really has affected, you know, the black and ethnic minorities communities. And it's really important, as Aunt Sally said, is to you know, check your facts, really get the information you need to make the best decisions. But the thing that stands out most of all is to respect why people feel that way, because sometimes it's very easy. I was you know, when I got offered the vaccine, I was like, give it to me now, yesterday. But I'm not one of those people that had those experiences, and it's to respect people's fears and not minimize them, to embrace them. Can we see, please, Pit Crew, what's up next?
Today's Bit of Company Chat is brought to you by the letter F. F for phone calls. Not everybody can get online. Pick up the phone and reach out and touch someone.
Help me explore just how much I love him and how important he is to me.
Gorgeous.
I just love those puppets. Absolutely love it. Really love them. Yeah, no, that point around being able to connect, and you know, COVID has definitely. I remember your interview with me, and you talked about the homeless community being housed, but actually no one really considered the implication around data and what it meant to lose those connections that they had. I think there's a lot that we need to really think about in society. Yeah. And next up is Stories from the Movement. Pit Crew, play that clip for me.
I'll tell you what, it has been is a real concern for me coming out of this. I think there's a lot more racism coming out of this.
I'm really worried about the division. I'm really worried about you know, the recession that's going to come, but the way that the current political system uses propaganda to divide us, I think is divisive for my time. I'm really worried about the growth in fascism that I'm seeing in my time. I'm really worried about that. And I think we've got to meet it with love. I think we've got to meet it with love, because it feels very much like there are kind of, we're attacking people's viewpoints, and some of those viewpoints are worthy of being attacked. But the way that we're attacking them is causing us to move further apart. And so I think the work and the longer game is how we can get people connected with what they've got in common.
When we talk about housing, we have to talk about a range of housing. We have to talk about accommodation to suit all the various needs, because one size does not fit all. There was people who had pets, for example, dogs, and they were told they couldn't get accommodation because the dog couldn't go into the hotel room. I completely understand that, but we need to be thinking about how can we remove all the barriers, not just some of the barriers for some people, but all of the barriers, so that we can accommodate people to meet their various needs. Also, some of the people who have been accommodated, they lasted maybe 2 weeks, and then some of them have ended up back on the streets. And when I started noticing that, I started asking people why, what's happened. And I was quite surprised with the responses that I was given. Some people said that it's not social distancing, it's social isolation. And that's the worst thing for them if they're hearing voices or if they've got high anxiety, just being isolated, caught up in their own. Some people said it felt very institutionalized. It reminded them of being in hospital or being in prison. They were suddenly in a room and they didn't have any choice about what they ate or even when they ate. Food was just brought to them. And even though the intention and everything was nice, it was meeting a physical need, but not a holistic need. It just really made me think about our service provision and about trying to do a one-size-fits-all, and how we need to, first of all, see people as human, see them as individual, and try and meet those individual needs.
Wow.
I didn't realise we were going to play that clip. Good thing I changed my bandana. But there's a nice thread running through all of those clips about removing barriers, about calling things out, but not necessarily calling them out in a way to create more tension, but creating those environments where we can have those uncomfortable conversations, because not everybody's experience is the same. And it's a bit of an analogy people use around COVID that, we're all in the same storm. But the reality is we might be in a storm, but some people are on ocean liners and some people are on dingers. And that's the difference. And that means how the impact of the storm happens to them. And I think if we really just picking up those words of wisdom from Aunt Sally about being kind to each other, that's one of the plus sides of COVID. The way communities have come together, streets have set up WhatsApp groups. I'm part of a food collection and delivery service. The cafe, it used to be a cafe, and now it's turned into a food and collection service. And there's lots of stuff that I think we're doing very humanely and just organically, but I really don't think that takes away from government and from the structural changes that need to change. The fact that a footballer is saying we should feed the kids, or thousands and increasingly growing numbers are dependent on food banks, all of these inequalities is not where we as a society want to be. And I think having forums like this and calling it out and offering solutions, and there's lots of organizations that are offering really good solutions, and I just hope that the government would open its ears, listen, and act upon some of this.
I believe that you're getting lots of love in the chat, and people are saying next Prime Minister Tony. Well, I would be giving you my vote if you were going to stand. I'm really struck by what Angela said, because as somebody that has fought for many years to break down these structural barriers that people face.
Mm.
It's hard often to do that in a way that is not confrontational or angry or othering, and connecting with your fellow human being is so important. You know, COVID has shown me that although my world is much smaller, those small acts are much more important.
I really like that. Yeah, I really like that.
It's just, it feels so wrong that sometimes leadership isn't there, and it's so easy to do that whole blame thing. But ultimately, for me, you know, I need to be able to look back at what I've done and really do the best that I can do with what I've got. And you know, you know, disproportionality with certain groups of people. We spoke about, you know, poor people had to go to work. They didn't have a choice. People have done the best they can do. And I always reflect, you know, if I was 25, would have I stayed at home and really understood COVID and the implications? And I don't know. And the world just needs a bit much more love, much more of people like us coming together. And I think this is why Camerados as a movement is a great opportunity to do that. And I think it's really important, this next bit. So can I ask the pit crew, we're going to go into a bit of action now. So pit crew, can we see what's up next, the bit of action?
Seems to be so random and it affects people in such different ways.
I've been feeling weird, I've been feeling like I've gone crazy, crazy. I've been feeling weird, I've been feeling like I've gone crazy.
Wow, I love that music.
We've got some contributions from our wonderful audience. Value people, the role they play in our community that makes a difference. Do you want to read one out, Tony?
Just before I do that, but you know, like you said about the small kindness, offering to go shopping when you're going shopping. It's these. It doesn't have to be big things. One that stood out for me is also about. Yvonne says, you know, call out injustice when you see it, but you know, we're calling out to elevate, to learn, to develop. So not just, as actually saying you're wrong, but saying what is wrong about it and what we can do to improve it. Other bits of action. I said I deliver food. I, you know, work on a national helpline and stuff like that. You can really do little things in your community that makes a big difference. Quick story, I had some rubbish I had to get rid of, and I put something on Nextdoor app. It's a neighborhood app, asking if anyone was going to the dump, would they take it for me? And believe it or not, somebody just a few doors down from me took it. And then I got them some flowers to say thank you. But on the way delivering the flowers, I met some other people who were saying, oh, who's the flowers for? So when I told them what happened, they were like, oh, that's such a good idea. We should organize, like, this sounds crazy, but we should organize dump runs because, you know, everyone's got dump and you have to book slots, and it just you know, these little things that building connectivity and community spirit are so important.
I mean, I've just seen the comment from Hazel, and I always take for granted this, you know, I've had access to internet throughout the pandemic.
Yeah.
I've had the ability to order, you know, my life was much more easier because of the access that I had. And it's so true. We're living next to people that may not have that same access. So check in on your neighbors. Because everyone has the same privileges and access as you do. Wow, just really powerful.
I'm of the age where people used to get milk delivered, and if the milk wasn't collected, that was a sign to check in. But I think you're right. You know, not only internet, but that whole data thing, and also, you know, you can stand at the gate and just say, "How's it going? How you doing?" And that's you know, enough of a bit of human contact. Really great news today, though, about our just one of my wonky words, like just going to throw it in there, is roadmap. But one of the pathways out of this, you know, if everything keeps going, and I think that shaft of hope is really, really going to help some people to get through the next few days, weeks, months.
That was a brilliant segue into our title card for Wonky Words. Send us your wonky words in, people.
Do you have a joke?
Yeah, I have 4.
4. Well.
Now telling them to shut up because I'm filming. Kept me sane with dog.
Hey, you! Watch the show.
I love Catherine's wonky word or phrase, act of kindness.
Yeah. BAME. It's quite scary that we've put a whole section of the world down into these, you know, 4 letters. Yeah, you're so right. Eligibility. I believe that's from Cat. You've talked about roadmap. What does that mean? I mean, asset, eligibility, all these things. What do they mean? They're very service landy kind of.
And yeah, and you know, disinformation. Hazel is flagging up. Kat is also saying consultation and engagement. These are all policy service-led words. And you know, going back to BAME, there's conversation in my workplace now for us. We're not just dropping it, but we're talking about the history of it, what it means, what it can mean to other people. And I think that's so important that if you're going to make improvement and do things, you don't just do what's PC, or you don't just jump on the bandwagon. You try to understand the reasoning behind it, because that's a way of everybody being educated and moving forward and having shared understandings. That's probably a wonky word for somebody. Yeah, we've got another one in from Silva, second-class citizens. I mean, this is 2021 and we're still using phrases like that. That's just shocking.
Oh God! Let's go to the title card for the puppets. You've got a wonky word to bring in.
I do love the puppets.
Let's go to the title card.
Yeah.
I'm also sort of just realized that how much stressed actually I've been through the period, which I wasn't aware of.
Hello. Hi. We are back, baby. Yay! Camerados are letting us back out to play for a bit of company chat. Can I come play too? Hey, sure.
You mentioned
spoon rooms.
Yeah. So there's a whole world of people out there that have no idea what that means or what that's about.
Do you want to explain, or do you want me to?
I think between us we can. I'll talk about my experience of being in a spoon room, and you could maybe talk about the history and how people can get involved, right?
Just mindful that, you know, we're going to get a move on from the pit crew, but we're at a good for time. So spoon rooms, let's be honest, you know, I'm digitally very challenged at the best of time. COVID hit, and I'd never ever connected on any kind of platform. I was very new to Facebook, didn't really connect with people on that level. I'm more of a let's go down the pub, get drunk person, connect in real person. But that was also really difficult as a person living with illnesses and disabilities. A lot of stuff I got excluded from. So COVID hit, and there was all this technology that I had to go onto, and I came across spoon rooms, and it helped me out for a really difficult time. It helped me just get through a time where I didn't necessarily want to be on this planet, because my whole world had gone from being big to small. And I didn't really feel like I could talk to services about that, or my partner, and just being alongside strangers where you can say, it's really crap today and feel no judgment. That's how I spoon rooms. And I just think that being alongside, and it obviously being rooted in the Camerados movement, makes so much sense. That being alongside just makes you feel alive.
Wow, so much of what you said resonates with me as well. And you know, when we talk about structural inequalities, we talk about all these things, and then we have something as simple as spoon rooms that is so inclusive, so welcoming of everybody, regardless of position, how you're feeling, what you're doing, and you could just come along and you could get what I call clean space to use how you see fit. So if you want to be silent, that's okay. If you want to share some of your thoughts, you know, they don't have to be tied in a bow. You could just meander in thought and talk about some of your thoughts and feelings. That's something that Spoon Rooms provides, you know, and I really, really love it, because often people say, well, how can we be kind? How can we reach out? How can we be inclusive? But it's about meeting on a very, very simple level, just meeting on that human level. And that's how we're going to overcome things like racism, like inequalities, homophobia, all the things that make us unique, but also can separate us. As you can see, I'm wearing my spoon, and I haven't quite got a name for my spooners yet, but at least it's got a face now, you know.
It's looking like a handsome spoon there, Tony. So if anybody's got any suggestion for names, do send them in. Let's go over to the full video of the puppets, and Catherine and Pip just do such a wonderful job, because fun is really important as well.
Absolutely.
Roll the puppets.
Look at this! I'm on the television! I'm on TV! 2, 10, Hello. Hi, everybody. Catherine, hello.
Hi there.
Oh, I'm so glad to have you here in my home for the first ever time.
Yeah, it's great. I'm so glad that you invited me round.
I just, I wanted to know, where are you from?
I'm from Manchester.
No, I mean, where are you from?
I'm from Manchester.
No. I mean, where are you from originally?
Manchester.
Is that in the Caribbean?
It's like half an hour that way.
That way?
Yeah. Manchester.
Okay. So, are you vegetarian?
No.
Really? Really?
No, I eat meat.
What? Like all meat? You eat like, you don't eat pork. You don't eat pork, do you?
Yes, I eat pork.
Really?
Yes, and I eat beef and I eat chicken. I'm not fussy.
And you're okay with gluten?
I'm okay with glutens, yes.
Oh, okay. So I made dinner because you've never been here before, and I thought you'd prefer a curry.
Well, I'm okay with curry. I like it, just not too spicy.
I made a vegan vindaloo. I thought that's what you like.
No, I'm not quite sure I could eat that. I mean, the vegan bit's okay, but I won't be able to eat a vindaloo unless I can like douse it in yogurt.
I thought you liked it.
No.
I thought that was what you people like most.
No.
That's kind of weird. Okay, well, before we eat, do you think you should cover your hair?
No, I don't think I should pull my hair. What's wrong with it?
Well, no. I mean, it looks nice. I didn't think I was allowed to see your hair.
You're allowed to see my hair. It's all fine.
You're wearing not many clothes either. I mean, do you think you should, like, cover up?
I don't really understand why you're asking me all these questions.
No reason. Just because it's cold out. Okay. And maybe you shouldn't show your hair.
Well, I'm all right. It's all good. Come round. I'd just like to have a nice evening.
Well, thank you for coming by.
Yeah. I'm not so sure that we've got off on the right foot, but...
I don't have feet.
Let's just see how the evening goes, shall we?
That was my first interracial kiss.
Wow.
I mean, where was that puppet from? As Hazel said. Oh God, that's someone's real lived experience.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah. I want to kind of strangle the puppet, but so important to share those kind of experiences. I've had a lifetime of those kind of experiences.
Here's the thing, though, right? I think when people are faced with those microaggressions, right, that's not necessarily the intention of the puppet. People don't realize phrases like "you people" or "know where you really from," how that can land and how that can make people feel, you know. And I think sometimes people think as long as there's no harm, there's no foul. But when you're faced with this on a regular basis, day in, day out, it becomes quite wearing. So sometimes, you know, if you've had a really good day, you could shrug it off. But sometimes it can have quite an adverse effect on you. And the person, the puppet, often sometimes feel more aggrieved if you actually try to address it with them. Like, oh no, I wasn't trying to be racist or trying to be homophobic or trying to be bad, you know. I think, you know, there's always going to be differences. There are always going to be cultural differences. Here's what I say. Don't walk on eggshells. Just be upfront and ask people, how do you prefer to be addressed? Is there anything I can do to make you feel comfortable or to accommodate you better? You know, just be upfront instead of making assumptions and then building on those false assumptions and just ending up like the puppet.
That was a wonderful, wonderful ending. So, Tony, we have come to the end of our time together. I just wondered if you've got any final thoughts, and thank you so much.
I do. I think this whole series of Bit of Company and Chat has been so needed and so welcomed. When I talk to people who have attended and they talk about the experience, it's been really good. I kind of commend all the people behind the scenes, those behind the scenes people that have, you know, thought about this as a concept, put it together, you know, Matt, Catherine, People's Voice Media, Haley, all the tech staff that we have. It's really, really brilliant. But you know what? It's no point in doing any of this if we don't have your audience. So my biggest round of applause goes to all those people who've been tuning into not just this, but many other shows as well. It's really, really important that if we want to strengthen those fabrics in society, we've got to be meeting on these levels of, you know, just humanity. So that was a really short, yeah, right.
Thank you for keeping it short again, Tony. Love it. But once again, thank you so much. And, you know, the work has just begun. So watch this space, people, camaradas. Be kind, be good to yourself, be kind to others. Don't be afraid to, you know, be alongside. No fixing, no judgment. It's okay to get it wrong. Can't swear, but there is a swear. It's okay to be shit sometimes. Yeah, no, thank you so much. And we have a final video clip for you guys. And we just want to wish everybody well and hope to meet in better times soon.
Yeah. Take care of yourselves and take care of each other. It's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Video clip pit crew, please.
Sometimes we're all a little bit pants, a not so happy day when things don't go our way, and in between the rubber, the green, the roll of the dice, the way the cookie crumbles. Sometimes, almost all the time, we're all a little bit pants, a tad under par, but that's who we are. And even finding rhymes is harder than you'd think. Sometimes we're all a little bit pants, a not so happy day when things don't go our way, and in between the rubber, the green, the roll of the dice, the way the cookie crumbles.